as you're hiring for your project, all talent is not the same. Some projects need one person, some projects need 5 people. So here, this is so important. Before you hire anyone, make sure you know exactly who you're hiring and what skills your job will require. This happens all the time where I see people who are like, I need a designer who can build me a website, or I need a developer who can create me a logo, or I need a designer who can write the content for my website. In a website job project, there are many, many people and they all have different jobs. So let's go through it. A web designer is your macro person. She's the one who's going to decide, she is the one who's going to decide what it's going to look like, large scale. It's how it's going to look on desktop, on mobile. So she's going to do big picture. She is trained, I'm going to say she because my designer is a she. So she is trained to give the overall look of your website. A graphic designer is not a web designer. Traditionally, graphic designers cannot design websites. Web design is a very, very, very different skill. A graphic designer is generally more micro. They will do logos, infographics, custom images, photoshopping images. A graphic designer will work in partnership with a web designer, and a web designer will a lot of times commission something from a graphic designer. So if they need a headshot reformatted, or they'll need an update to the logo, or they need, a custom image for a particular section, a graphic designer will do that. But from my experience, a graphic designer generally does not have the skills to design a website. So that is very important to ask whether or not your graphic designer has web design experience. A web developer. A web designer traditionally cannot build a website, and a web developer traditionally cannot design a website. They're very different jobs. Web design is very right brain creative. Web developer is very left brain technical. Traditionally, how a professional quality website is built is a designer will design it and then prepares all her notes, mock-ups, instructions, and it goes to a web developer who actually builds it. And then what happens is the web developer, they're the ones who make sure that it works in multiple browsers, all the functionality is working, the hosting is working, all the coding. Most designers cannot code, and most developers cannot design, so it works. You need a team, you need a couple people. And then what happens is the web developer, their work will then go to a quality assurance person, who's another person again, who will check the work on multiple browsers, check for bugs, check for site speed, check that all the links are working, all the buttons are the same shape, all the paddings are the same. So in even a simple website, you have someone who designs it, someone who builds it, and someone who checks it. So there's immediately, on a really professional caliber website. Number 4, a generalist. A generalist for a basic website, a lot of times a generalist is fine. This is someone who has basic design skills, basic development skills. The more complex your website becomes, it's very, very, very unlikely you will find one person who can do it all. At a professional caliber level, to create a website takes at least, like I said before, at least 3 or 4 people. If your website is really simple, you don't have a very difficult design requirement, your website is there's no sort of advanced technical requirement, a generalist will be fine. But if you're looking for something really nice, someone who can design and develop, is going to be very difficult to find. It's like the unicorn of talent. Again, it's just generally one person does not have the ability to be very creative as well as being incredibly technical. So if you find someone, just make sure that you've seen their portfolio. And then if you see their portfolio, make sure you check their work on devices to see, okay, they might be able to design it, but can they actually build it? Is it fast? Is it responsive? And then if they show you sites that they built, how do they look? Because again, this is a very unique combination of someone who can do it all. So a programmer is someone who usually works with software. That is not usually related to a website. Content copywriting. One time I see quite a bit of people who are like, I need a web designer who can write all my content. A content and copywriter is a writer. They usually have zero technical ability at all. They don't know how to design. They don't know how to develop. Their job is to write the information for your website. I have never seen a situation where someone can design, develop, do the quality assurance, do the content, do the SEO, that is multiple people. So just keeping that in mind, that for your content creation, copywriting, you will need to bring in a writer for that. An SEO expert. SEO, again, most developers, a lot of people think that a developer can also do SEO. It's a very different skill. SEO usually works in partnership with a development team, but the developer is one who builds the site, and SEO team is the person who helps market the website. Usually it's a handoff. A lot of times an SEO expert will come in as part of the planning to make sure that we have the correct number of pages for their marketing plan, so we can support their efforts with their SEO campaign. However, most SEO people they're not web developers, they're SEO. It's again, a very different skill. They're not really interchangeable. A project manager. So in building a professional grade website, as you can see, there's a lot of people involved. There's like I said, design, let's do it one more time. Design, web designer, graphic designer, quality assurance, web developer, front end or back end or full stack developer. You may have an SEO person, you may have a content writer, you have your quality assurance person. So someone needs to run that job. So myself as a project manager, I know that when clients don't work with a project manager, questions from 5 to 7 people can be incredibly overwhelming, and it will monopolize your life. So a project manager's job is to kind of put that buffer so the job is running. They handle all the problems, all the technical questions, they do the budgets, they do the schedule. If someone's sick that day, they handle it, they manage the deadline, the whole bit. So some people don't want the extra layer of a project manager. However, the clients who have worked with the project manager, they say, oh my God, it saved me so much headache, because a lot of the times the clients do not have the technical ability to answer these questions that come in, and it just makes them crazy. So that's sort of where I come in, where it's you're bilingual in that I can talk to my client, but I can also talk the tech to my team, and they don't have to stress each other out. So anyway, so as you're going through this list, check the boxes of what you think you need, because this will be a huge help as you're starting to interview talent for your job when you know exactly what you're looking for.